There we go. Good evening. Welcome to the June 4th edition of the Carolina Weather Discussion. It is Wednesday, June 4th, around 8 o'clock in the evening. I'm Ricky Matthews in Virginia, not Carolina right now, but this may be a good thing because I'm out of the woods of a lot of these storms you'll be seeing tonight across some of the Carolina counties. That's going to be the topic tonight. Some severe weather potential across our mountain counties, into the Piedmont, and then tomorrow over into the eastern part of the state. I'll go ahead and introduce myself, Ricky Matthews, UNC meteorology major. We got up to a temperature here in Charlotte, where I usually cover around 89 today. Pretty warm for this time of year. We're usually not that warm, so a few degrees above normal, and that's helping to pop those thunderstorms across our region tonight. I'll throw it to Daniel, who's a little bit further west than me, and he can tell you about what happened today, and then we'll come back in and talk about the tornado watch that was just issued for some of our areas.
Okay. Thank you, Ricky. My name is Daniel Crawley. I'm located in Marion, North Carolina, McDowell County. Pretty warm day here in the western foothills of western North Carolina.
Yeah, we're watching it. In
other parts of western North Carolina, we had a high of about 87, 88 degrees. Clouds started perking up here in the afternoon, but we didn't have any convection. But we are kind of watching things back to the west right now, as you can see on some of the screen share that's coming out. A tornado watch has just been issued for the region, including northeast Tennessee and west North Carolina, all the way down to the I-40 corridor, including McDowell County, including Nashville, and just a little bit to the east. So we're going to keep an eye on what's going on tonight, and I know the computer models have been hinting that we'd have some kind of convective activity, maybe a line to come in sometime maybe between 10 p.m. and midnight or so. We'll be keeping an eye on it, and hopefully nothing really big happens, but if it's warmth and humidity's kind of popped up a little bit today compared to the last couple of days, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for something to happen. I'm going to kick it down to Austin. He's down in the eastern part of the state. He can tell us a little bit about what went on down east today.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Austin. I'm here in Boys Creek, North Carolina, around Campbell University, just south of Raleigh. It was actually a pretty nice day. A few thunderstorms just north of us around the Raleigh area. Some nice cloud formations from that. It hit about 93 today. It felt pretty humid. I think it was about 50% humidity throughout the day. That's what it was around here.
All right, with that, we'll toss it to Scotty, who's in Burke County, if he's back online. They've got a busy night covering the storms up there, shaping up. Scotty, what's going on?
Yeah, thanks, Ricky. Sorry, it's so funny how Chris and I, we were just joking around in here. We were doing some other stuff for Burke weather, and we had weather chat on, and we heard the little EAS warning, and we're like, what the crap? So things went from being fun to now serious as we're watching this line of thunderstorms possibly move into the area later on this evening. We actually have a few storms popping up right now over the northwest part of Burke and Caldwell County, over the Jonas Ridge and Blowing Rock areas. So we're watching that, watching this other line of storms coming in. So it's going to be a very active night here in Burke and Caldwell, McDowell, and Catawba County. I guess we've been all wanting some storms, so it looks like we may get our wish tonight. But a very busy night. Chris is over here. He's going to come on here in a little bit and talk too. So we're going to be in and out. So everything's going on crazy. I'll be right back.
All right, I'll take it over from there then, and we'll go ahead and dive into the radar. I've got my screen share up. That was a picture of the air show I just went to. Here's the screen share of the current conditions and the radar across the area. This is an application called GR Earth, which popped up a big warning in front of it. There's the watch text, and if you scroll down towards the bottom, what the Storm Prediction Center is interested in are these little clusters of storms. These what we almost call semi-discrete or supercell thunderstorms that are developing over the western Appalachian Mountains and up across Kentucky as well. As a result, they've decided to issue the tornado watch downstream from where it used to be. It was, in effect, portions of Kentucky, of course, Lexington, Campbellsville, Somerset, Hazard, Pikeville, and it now includes all areas roughly about all the counties that border I-40 and up towards Statesville, Harmony, North Wilkesboro, Lenore, Morganton, Spruce Pine, Burkesville, down towards the Asheville area, Boone, Jefferson, Mountain City. All that area is now included in this tornado watch. Now, what does a tornado watch mean? Obviously means that you should watch out for the potential for some severe weather. Tornado watch means the conditions are favorable for the development of severe weather, including tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. So we'll switch to another application. This is GR Analyst, and we'll put on the radar out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and I hope this is still sharing. Looks like it's coming in and out a little bit. Let's see if I can get it fixed here. Back, share. There we go. Now I'll tell you. So here's one of those little discrete storms over towards the Jonesboro area. You can see it is a severe thunderstorm, has a severe thunderstorm warning on it for some quarter-sized hail and damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. And we'll switch to velocity products, and you can see just the red color, which means there's no rotation to storm yet. Usually we say that when green meets red, you want to get under the bed because there's a potential for some tornadoes when those two colors meet, indicating the rotation in the cell. So that's the first cell there. A little bit of hail in it, but mainly just a damaging wind and hail threat across that area. No tornado threat yet. Scotty, do you guys have an idea what you expect over the next couple of hours, maybe with this cell or in the cell close to the Burke County area right now?
Well, right now we're watching a couple of showers and storms that's developed over the area right now. But like you said, we're watching that line in Kentucky. That seems to be anything right ahead of that's going to be the storms that produce any tornadoes with supercell characteristics. So that's what we're going to be watching. We think, I know the warning goes out till 3 a.m., but it looks like as soon as that line gets to us, our threat's going to diminish after that initial line comes through. So it looks like maybe up to 1 a.m. For our areas, and then maybe 2 a.m. for Catawba and Iredell before those counties get hit by this line. So we're going to be watching those, and like you said, any individual cell that pops up, like the one just south of Kingsport. Let's see, south of Kingsport and over there towards Washington County. So that's what we're watching right now. Just those storms, individual storms that fire up ahead of this main line is going to capture our attention.
And here is the main line. If we're switched back to there we go. The main line that we were interested in is still located over towards the western portions of Kentucky. These other cells forming near eastern Kentucky are interesting because if they form into a line, that could actually be our interesting weather for tonight in the form of our main squall line or so that pushes through a little bit later this evening. Let's go and switch to the model products, and I'll bring this up and I'll show you what some of the models are predicting may develop here over the next couple of hours and show you what some of our short-range models show. This is the Incept Wharf, which is a variation of another model that's kind of processed again. We'll go ahead and put it at 8 o'clock tonight. You can see it matches fairly well with the storms that are ongoing. It's got the complex across western Kentucky and a few cells across the North Carolina mountains. And so we'll take this out further into time. This will be around 1 a.m. where the main area of thunderstorms moves into the North Carolina mountains. And we'll continue this out to around 3 a.m. when this model thinks the storms may be reaching the Charlotte metro area. And for Austin, those folks in the eastern part of the state, it kind of keeps the line going, but weakens it through the early morning hours and then redevelops it into the afternoon with some more showers and storms also developing tomorrow afternoon across perhaps the areas about south and east of Charlotte and then eastern Carolina as well. So that's one of the models. Let me switch over to another variation of model. This is what we call the HRR, or High Resolution Rapid Refresh model. It's a 3-kilometer model, so it's a little bit higher resolution than the one I just showed you. And we'll go ahead and start it around 8 p.m. tonight. And it seems to be overdoing this complex of storms a little bit here across the eastern Piedmont area and the foothills. But watch what happens as we progress this through. You see that complex of storms that was up across the Eastern Kentucky area, starts to push into the southern Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina, and then eventually into South Carolina as we go towards 3 a.m., and some of the fringes of that could impact the Charlotte area. So, Daniel, putting both of these together, it seems like the most likely scenario we have is kind of a complex of storms that may push through the southern portions of the mountains, while some of the semi-discrete cells that have already formed push through the northern parts of the mountains. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Going into today and looking at some of the all data from earlier today, there was some thought that we'd have an MCS feature actually maybe come across the northern mountains, and just by looking at the radar, I wonder if that's going to happen. It may be more of a case of getting a couple discrete cells out ahead of the actual MCS that may be developing farther west, like across western Kentucky. So it'll be interesting, especially in the next hour to 2 hours. Keep an eye on the radar over eastern Kentucky and see if or how that might fill in and how that could possibly affect the weather for the high country of North Carolina and maybe even down into the foothill counties where I live and where Scotty and Chris are there in Morganton.
Mm-hmm. We do have one tornado warning right now with this whole storm complex, and that's across portions of western Kentucky. It did have a tornado reported with it by a train spotter. Law enforcement reported a, quote, multiple vortex tornado on the ground for a few minutes, and also reported a large rain wrap tornado. So as my radar data comes on, I'll show you what that storm looks like right now. This is the whole main complex of storms that's going to be pushing towards the North Carolina southern North Carolina mountains, I believe, a little bit later this evening into the overnight hours. So make sure the screen share comes back on here. And as the radar data starts to fill in across this area, you'll see how this is kind of a whole line of storms that had a little bow echo in it. And that's where the potential tornado would exist in this area of storms. The radar data is taking a little bit longer than it usually does. There we go. So this is the composite reflectivity, or the area of rain that you're most often used to seeing on radar, but we'll switch to velocity products, and right in there where the potential tornado would be located, where the green and the red come together, indicating some of the rotation in the cell down there. We have another product called nationalized rotation. It's not showing too much at this time, but a little bit earlier the tornado was much well pronounced on radar, and you could really see it as it moved across and over towards the Wheatcroft area, where that tornado warning and the tornado report came in a little bit earlier across western Kentucky. So that'll be something else we have to watch for as this area of thunderstorms moves in. The potential for some small, discrete spin-up tornadoes, but I think if anything, Dan and or Daniel and I think Scotty left us, but Austin, the greatest potential will probably be for some of those damaging winds.
The Storm Prediction Center and the Tornado Watch just said a couple of tornadoes are possible, scattered large-scale events to 1.5 inches in diameter possible, and isolated damaging wind gusts to 70 miles per hour.
Ooh, that's some pretty big hail. 4.5, you said?
No, 1.5.
Okay, I was making sure I heard that right. That's some big hail. 1.5 is still some pretty big hail, and I wouldn't want that to hit my roof either, but not as bad as 4.5. So let's go back and switch to GR Earth, and we'll show you the overall setup here. So let's zoom out, and you can see where all the severe thunderstorm warnings are, flash flood warnings. We'll turn those off, and I'll turn on, not that, I'll turn on the wind flow. Here it is. We'll turn on 500 millibar winds, and these are the winds up in the atmosphere, which are kind of guiding these thunderstorms as they go along. So we'll put this into motion. As the radar data fills back in, and my screen share apparently has gone away, so I'll make sure that comes back on. There we go. So as you see, as the storms kind of go into motion, a lot of the storm motion across Virginia is often to the east, and we'll turn on another layer of winds here, the 700 millibar winds, and then we'll turn on the 850 winds, and watch where kind of the whole thunderstorm complex goes. starts to dive south a little bit over here towards the Evansville area as the winds are being shifted and being pushed down in some of these upper level winds that we have going on. Oops, there we go. I want the 5. I forget which wind level I wanted. There was one that showed it perfectly. Let's go surface wind. 10 meter. All right. But essentially, you can follow the storms and the storm motion off these arrow vectors, and you can kind of see where they're going to be going a little bit later this evening by following them. If you take that motion and kind of project it forward, you would see that most of the storm complexes will probably end up going across eastern Kentucky or eastern Tennessee down into the Asheville area. And these little teeny cells right here will end up going towards some of the Hickory, Boone, and Lenore areas. What's interesting, Daniel, is you look at this, you can almost see the shear and some of the reasons we have a higher tornado risk across the mountains. See the arrows blowing one direction at 500 millibars and another direction at 850 millibars, indicating some of the shear present in the atmosphere across our areas.
Yeah, that's that's a good point, Rick. There's from the surface up, that's pretty solid shear, and if these cells can grow, we'll have to watch, especially northeast Tennessee and making its way into the Appalachians, see if that does start spinning up a little bit later, and be on the watch out for that. But yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, if you look at the flow, especially 500 millibars, there does seem to be a trend to eventually drop that stuff down the southeast a little bit more, to where the main line back in Kentucky, like I said, is probably going to go across the heart of Tennessee and then into the Smokies.
Mm-hmm. There's actually 2 tornado warnings on this whole complex now. Another tornado warning now towards the Bowling Green, Kentucky area has just popped up.
Radar indicated.
Another radar indicated tornado says across that area. Austin, do you want to talk a little bit about maybe tomorrow's severe weather setup, what the SPC has outlined for Eastern Carolina, and what you all are expecting out there tomorrow?
Yeah, hold on just 1 second. Let me get it pulled up here. Storm Prediction Center has highlighted Eastern North Carolina under the C text. They do say, let's see here. It says support a threat for hail and strong wind gusts. The tornado threat is not 0, but it's really low. Not enough shear and things for that to happen. But maybe a few large hail events, some strong winds, 60 to 70 miles per hour.
And the model support is there for that as well. We'll take a look at what's called one of our models that runs across all of North America, and we'll start it here at midnight. You can see that storm complex approaching North Carolina mountains, and then we'll go out into tomorrow. Morning hours probably clear across some eastern parts of the state, but then as we go into the evening, those storms start to form across South Carolina and a few storms across eastern Carolina as well. The INSEP WRF probably has a better lock on this in my opinion. We'll step it out to, let's see, this is Thursday at 5 a.m. See that dying thunderstorm complex moving across the eastern part of the state, and they get some storms a little bit later through the afternoon hours. Some more storms develop across southeastern Virginia and northeastern Carolina, and some more storms kind of ride the boundary between North Carolina and South Carolina down there as well as we go into the late evening hours. So that's the interesting question or so about whether we have some severe storms across the eastern part of the state or not for tomorrow afternoon as well. The folks out at UNC Asheville have launched a weather balloon, and it's going to be, let's see if I can bring that up here, and we'll show you what the winds are, the lowest little bit of the atmosphere. Look down here towards about 1,900 millibars. You can see what we really have is a lot of directional shear, not so much speed shear, through some of the lowest levels of the atmosphere off the Asheville sounding, and that's why we have a small tornado risk this evening across those areas as well. Daniel, this is close to your area out there, a little bit closer to you, I should say, than me. It's interesting, honestly, because I'm not sure any of us really expect a tornado watch over a severe thunderstorm watch.
No, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting it either, and just, from what we was talking about going into the day, we were thinking more of an MCS type deal, which usually you see more times you see a severe thunderstorm watch issued with those. But it is kind of interesting that the surface winds is kind of in a position, because if you look really, if you look much above about 850 to 900 millibars, you look above it, it's almost unidirectional, but the lowest little bit right there at the surface is kicked all the way around southeast, and if we can get a sail a little bit later on that can tap into that, could we get a possible spin up? You never know. That's quite possible, but that's it's kind of caught me off guard too. I'm a little surprised that that's come about this afternoon, this evening.
I have to wonder if it's just because they had the tornado watch in effect for portions of western Kentucky, if they decided just to extend it downrange or not, instead of going with a severe thunderstorm watch, because some of those cells were somewhat discrete through there. However, there hasn't been, I think there was one or two tornado warnings. There you go. One tornado warning popped up, two actually, excuse me, across that tornado watch box a little bit earlier this afternoon. So we'll see if we verify as well and get a tornado watch across our area through the rest of our evening and overnight hours. So a long night ahead for some of us, it seems like, across Western Carolina that are into the meteorology community. So we're coming up in about 30 minutes or so as this show's been rolling on, and since we don't have any storms yet in our immediate viewing area, there's just a few showers moving through the Boone, Lenore area. None of those, actually one lightning strike now on that storm. Another one's up towards the Johnson City area where some of our other Tennessee friends are located, have some lightning on them, so we'll have to watch those as they push east. But any thoughts from you guys as we start to wrap up this show?
Well, just again, talking about the western part of the state, we'll just kind of keep an eye on what's going on, especially over Kentucky. I'd say over eastern Kentucky, because I think if we're going to get anything that happens that could be of significance, it needs to initiate over that area. And I think the models, the whole time had kind of been showing that, because of, if we start looking at stuff and thinking, well, it's just going to blow up over East Tennessee, then I think you kind of have to get a little worried about it, that it may not happen. So I think the next, at least for, the high country of North Carolina, the foothills of North Carolina, we need to see what's happening over places like Hazard and Pikeville in the next hour or two. See if those storms get a little bit stronger. See if we start shooting out a tornado warning in that part of the country, and see how things progress to the southeast. Once again, farther west, you get west of Asheville, get into the Great Smokies, places like Cherokee and Franklin, Bryson City, Andrews, and Murphy. You're probably going to be looking more at what's going on over the Bowling Green area and seeing, exactly what direction does that drop over the next few hours. Does anything form out ahead of it that might be discrete, potentially? It could happen in that area too, as much as, we're talking about eastern Kentucky and eastern Tennessee. It could potentially happen over central Tennessee. And that actual line that's over Kentucky right now, does it maybe potentially build eastward, grow on the eastern side of it a little bit? So, there's some things we'll be looking at for the next couple hours and to see what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the next few hours will certainly be indicative of what we're going to see over the next, say, 4 to 8 hours or so across our area as well. Some of those storms across eastern Kentucky getting a little better organized, it looks like now, so we'll have to see what goes on there. Austin, final thoughts from you?
The only thing I have to say is just keep your weather radio ready, be ready for warnings issued. The tornadoes aren't very, very likely, but it's always possible with these individual cells. And I think that's why they went on and issued the tornado watch, is because of the individual cells, not because of the main system up in Kentucky, but just these individual cells. And we'll have to watch out for some brief tornadoes from them.
Hey, Ricky, before we cut off, you was talking about the cells in Kentucky are getting a little bit better looking. I'm going to try to pull up a screen share right quick. This is close to the Jackson, Kentucky radar. See if I can pull it up here. Maybe take me just a second. Got a cell. It looks like it's looking a little bit better on the velocity as far as maybe some rotation. Okay, I think I've got it here. Just to the south of Jackson, near Buckhorn. I mean, that's, you know, we talk about the couplet and the colors coming together around, I guess, pronounce that Talbot, between Talbot and Buckhorn. That's where the warning's in effect. I mean, that's something I'd look at. Places, you know, not too far away, Buckhorn, Chavies, I guess as I pronounce that, maybe Hazard, Kentucky. But that's the thing we're going to have to watch. Let's see if these start to grow and get a little bit better organized. And, you know, if it starts getting into that part of eastern Kentucky and then it drops down into Tennessee, it'll be definitely worth keeping an eye on this evening.
Mm-hmm.
That storm in particular looked like it might affect southwest Virginia more than it would northeast Tennessee. Well, no, actually, it probably would. It'd actually go through southwest Virginia first around the Pennington Gap, Big Stone Gap area. That's kind of interesting that, you know, you'd mentioned that, because that does look a little bit more interesting compared to what it was, even saying the last 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. I want to go back and hit on something real quick that Austin mentioned that I thought was good. Is, you know, it is nighttime, or we're approaching nighttime. It's dark here in eastern North Carolina and Virginia, starting to get dark in some of the western portions. But it's a lot harder, of course, to see any type of severe weather after dark. And if you're sleeping and a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning is issued, you're probably not going to have any way of knowing unless you have an app to alert you, or a weather radio. I always recommend apps such as MyWarn or IMAP Weather Radio. The Weathercaster app from the Belo Corporation is another good one if you want to download an app. And I know that our friend Kenneth up at Watauga Roads is making an app too. I'm not sure if it has a weather alerted capability or not, but he just published that app today into the app stores, or submitted it, I should say, into the app stores. So you want to make sure you give that a download if you live up in the Watauga area over the next week or so, I assume, after it gets processed and approved into all of the app stores around there. All right, we're hitting 30 minutes, so I'll go ahead and wrap it up. And if we have any type of severe weather tonight, or type of large-scale tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning, we'll perhaps do another special event and cover some of those warnings here in a live stream as we go through the evening and overnight hours. So right now, just a few showers across western Carolina, one thunderstorm about to move into North Carolina that has a severe thunderstorm warning on it. We'll see if in the next about probably 5 or so minutes, if the Weather Service decides to stretch that into some of the, maybe the Elk Park or Rowan Mountain areas of Tennessee and North Carolina or not. So say weather word tonight across the Carolinas. Oh, and I can't end it without saying our little slogan, or people will kill me. So thanks for tuning in tonight to the Carolina Weather Discussion. Remember, if it's not a Carolina weather discussion, it's not a discussion at all.
Bicycle.